After America is made on the lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri Woiwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nations. We pay our respects to elders past and present and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded.
We are in a battle for the soul of America.
This is a fraud on the American public.
Hi, I'm Angus Blackman, and this is After America. Last week, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong issued a strongly worded statement on the Israeli government's decision to not pursue a criminal investigation into the killing of Australian aid worker Zomi Frankcom and 6 other humanitarian workers in Gaza. Wong expressed outrage, a rhetorical step up from the usual concern, and the Prime Minister said much the same.
Australian government learned of Israel's decision late last night, moments before it was announced, on World Humanitarian Day.
Well, it clearly is an outrage, and there's a need for a far more transparent and clear explanation from the Israeli government other than what we've received.
And we didn't have the opportunity to inform Zomi's family before Israel's decision was made public because of the lack of notice. To learn of these developments in these circumstances was especially insulting and hurtful to Zomi's loved ones, to humanitarians, and to Australians.
The Israeli ambassador was hauled in, and some more words were said. As Australia's former Human Rights Commissioner Chris Sidoti outlined on the show a couple of weeks ago, there is plenty the Australian government could be doing in response to Israel's assault on Palestinians and the international rule of law. In recent days, he's also called for Israel's ambassador to Australia to be sent home. But so far, nothing. This week, we're looking back on the primary results and forward to the midterm and presidential elections with one of Australia's leading analysts of American politics. Chas Licciardello is co-host of Planet America on the ABC and the PEP podcast, and a former member of The Chaser. Chas joined Dr Emma Shortis last week to discuss the primary races so far, why he thinks talk of a civil war between democratic socialists and establishment Democrats is overblown, and why Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff seems to have MAGA rattled.
Chas, welcome back to After America. It's been too long.
It has been too long. In American time, it's been about, 400 years?
At least. Yeah.
Things move fast there.
They really, really do. Although I think I was reflecting on our last conversation, and I'm pretty sure we were talking about fascism then too. So, a lot of things change, but some things have stayed the same.
The classic. Yes.
You've actually, though, just had a break for a little while. Pep's been on a little rest. Did you manage to tune out of American politics for a little while? Are you feeling refreshed?
Yeah, people find it hard to believe that when I go cold turkey, I really go cold turkey. They think I must be addicted to it because this is my job. But honestly, it's so easy for me to stop reading about American politics because it just sucks you in. It's like a vortex. More like it's an abyss. It just it doesn't just suck your attention, it sucks your soul in. And I find it really, really handy. The best thing about, I'm effectively American. I live my life on American hours. I only consume American media. But the one great thing about living in Australia when you're covering America is that you can opt out anytime you want. And so when I get the opportunity, I take it. And it stops me going mad. So, yeah.
I'm really glad you've had a break. But having said that, the midterm primaries are almost done. We've got a 4 left or something like that. Having had a break and I guess come back to them, what are your thoughts, feelings on the primaries so far?
Look, there haven't been a huge number of surprises for me. I was a little bit surprised the way Francesca Hong fell apart the last second.
The battle for power in the Democratic Party isn't over yet. The next stop is Wisconsin, where a Democratic socialist is taking the lead in the governor's primary.
Hong, who has come under scrutiny for her past social media posts, including one that called for canceling Thanksgiving.
AOC isn't backing Francesca Hong.
Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot of that.
She's moved moved away from it.
I've cooked many great Thanksgiving dinners. And I'm not going to cancel Thanksgiving.
Francesca Hong narrowly lost the Democratic nomination for governor to the more moderate David Crowley. She lost by less than a percentage point.
Certainly, that was a surprise to anyone who's looking at the polls. But having said that, I think that that kind of thing happens during primaries. Like, primaries are terrible as far as polling goes. I don't think people understand the difference between polling in primaries and polling in general elections. And that is essentially that with general elections, a lot of stuff is baked in. Like, for instance, that certain demographics are going to vote largely Democrat, and some demographics will vote largely Republican. That is baked in at the beginning. Whereas with a primary, you never know who's going to vote for who, and so it's a lot harder for a pollster to get an accurate number. Because I don't think a lot of people understand that when they do their best when they take these samples, pollsters, but at the end of the day, most of the work is done with a calculator. After they take the poll, they try and adjust to try and reflect what would be the reality on polling day, and they make a lot of assumptions. And when they get it wrong, it's because they've made incorrect assumptions, and it's a lot harder to make those assumptions in a primary than it is with a general election, when you know pretty much who's going to turn out to vote. In a general election, with a primary, anything could happen. Not just anyone could vote for anything, but you could have a situation where an ad makes a huge difference. In a general election, ads don't make a huge difference. People just turn up or they don't turn up. You know who's going to turn up. But in a primary, one story could make all the difference. So it's very unpredictable. And so you should never, ever pay attention to polls and in primaries. And so Wisconsin, while it was a surprise with the polls, that happens every time. So I'd say in terms of any lessons we've learned, people are trying to make out there's this big civil war amongst the Democrats about the socialists versus the establishment. At the end of the day, we're talking about 10 races between all the House races and all the Senate races and all the governor's races, probably 10 in total, where there's real tension. And otherwise, like the red states, they tend to be very different. The people who run in red states is the blue states. That's not a surprise. So I think that's really overplayed. I'd say basically the only thing that's really changed since I went on break is that Trump's become even more unpopular, and the things that were driving him down before are driving him down even more. And you don't expect it to be that consistent. You expect it to be, you expect there to be a period of a month or two where he comes back, and then things go back and forth with vicissitudes. There's no vicissitudes. It's just going down for him at the moment, and you almost get the sense that he can feel that.
Yeah, you reckon? You think he's spiraling a bit, or?
It does feel that way. Let's just say there weren't nearly as many George Washington and Trump AI pictures before I left than there are now. If you measure his general state of health by the number of pictures he tweets out of him and George Washington, it's really out of control at the moment.
Yeah, right. And he does, I mean, he seems particularly rattled by Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff, who has like really landed this line about, all he wants to do is be with his aide, Natalie Harp.
See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
What do you make of that? Like, I mean, he seems very defensive.
Well, look, there's a couple of angles on this. This is an interesting area. There's a couple of angles. The first, let's take the Trump side, which is where you were leading to there, and then let's take the Ossoff side, because there's two sides to this. On the Trump side, the defensiveness was very notable. I mean, we were talking within what, 2 hours of it becoming news, there were I counted maybe 50 different MAGA affiliated Twitter accounts coming out with very similar defenses that were all sounded kind of desperate and all kind of, oh, a low blow. And you're going, hang on now, who do you support again? And, it was a bit ridiculous. And that they're all acting offended and outraged that someone could stoop so low. And that's not what they do when they're not taking something seriously. They laugh at you, or they troll you back, or they ignore you altogether. When they start getting outraged, that's usually a sign that you've drawn blood. And it's not a surprise, because I don't think that Donald Trump is having an affair with Natalie Harp. Let's put that on the table right now.
I just prefer not to think about that at all.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. But what I do think is that he has a strange relationship with her. And he's dependent on her in a way that the president shouldn't be dependent on anyone, emotionally dependent. And I think they know that. And the fact that we've read so many articles in the past about even his chief of staff not going near Natalie Harp, letting her do whatever she likes because she's so important to his state of mind, because she's just the right flavor of sycophant for Trump. I think they know that this is where he's at his weirdest. And the less pressure there's placed on that part of the relationship, the better. Especially, they don't want her to be driven away from him because she's so important to his emotional stability. So it's a strange situation. I think it shows that Jon Ossoff drew blood by referring to it. Now, the other side, I think, is more interesting, to be honest, which is the Jon Ossoff side, because we have spoken off camera before about the fact that I've thought for some time that Jon Ossoff is a bit of a dark horse for the presidential nomination for the Democrats down the track, because he occupies that sweet spot in the Democrats. Not only is he a red state, or maybe purple, but I think really red state senator from the Democrats, one of the very few who looks like he's running away with his race, which is very unusual. But also, he's just that right. He occupies that perfect spot where he's in between the progressives and the centrists, and he's in between a lot of the splits in the Democrats. In particular, they've got a potential problem coming up with Israel as a topic in the Democratic primary, where you got half the, well, even now it's less than half, probably about a third of the base are still, they're older people, they're still quite sympathetic towards Israel, and then 2/3 are really, really, really not sympathetic towards Israel. And one of the key Democrats who is going to be running in 2028 is obviously Josh Shapiro, the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania, who in the past was a bit more sympathetic towards Israel. As now, lately, he's been trying to move as far away from Israel as he can when he's about to run for president. But this is going to be a point of tension, which the Republicans are going to try to blowtorch the Democrats with. Jon Ossoff is right in the middle on this issue, and he's right in the middle in a lot of issues. So he occupies, and he's also a good speaker. He's a pretty good looking guy. He's young. He's energetic. He can do the internet. He's a good candidate. And so this is kind of almost his debut. In the last 2 days, I've heard a lot of people saying to me, "What do you reckon about Jon Ossoff?" And I hadn't mentioned it to him, and then all of a sudden they're just going, "Oh, look at that!" So this is a big moment for him, and especially now Trump has started to call him Pee Wee Herman, which is a terrible nickname. But the fact
it's shocking, isn't it? Like most people wouldn't even know who that is.
Well, I mean, Pee Wee Herman's like a 40-year-old reference. He doesn't look anything like Pee Wee Herman. He's almost the direct opposite of Pee Wee Herman in that he's a pretty good looking guy. And also he's like the third guy Trump has called Pee Wee Herman. He just doesn't have many references these days.
No,
so anyway, but the fact that Trump has actually taken the bait and has turned him into an adversary, that helps him out. The question, though, is, does Jon Ossoff want to stick his head above the parapet in 2026? Because the best thing for him is to keep his head low for at least another year. Let Gavin Newsom become old news over the next year or so, and then he can come out fresh and tanned and rested halfway through 2027, and then bang, he doesn't want to become old news before the race even begins, especially as he hasn't won his Senate race yet. And I'll tell you what Georgia won't like, They won't like if they think their Senate candidate is running for president before he's won his Senate race. So he could lose that race if he becomes too much associated with a presidential race 2 years early. So this is an interesting period for Jon Ossoff.
Yeah, it is. It really is, because like the pressure is on as well for them to declare, that as soon as the midterms are done, we got to work out who's running in 2028. And it seems, at least now, obviously, things move so quickly as we've discussed, but at least now the contenders are kind of Ossoff and AOC, like almost as kind of representatives of the way kind of pundits would have it, the warring factions of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, look, I know it seems, it's a bit pundit brain for us to be talking about 2028 before 2026 has even happened. But I mean, you're right. You're right. Like the AOC does appear to be running without having declared it. She's certainly acting like she's running. And even though she really isn't the candidate of the Sanders left anymore, she has very deliberately moderated over the last few years to the point where they're getting a bit annoyed at her sometimes, that they feel that she's left them behind a little bit. And there are whispers on Twitter left and Blue Sky that they don't use the word sell out, but they're starting to. I think they are a little bit put out at times with some of the, like for instance, the woke one thing that Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez said the other day. She was in an interview and Francesca Hong of all people from Wisconsin, and she answered with, "Well, woke one was a bit crazy."
And I have a local city councilman that has this saying, "Woke one was crazy."
Woke one was crazy.
During lockdown, of course, rhetoric in that time is not rhetoric that we would use today.
And, a lot of the Sanders left would go, hang on, woke one was crazy. What was crazy about fighting for people's civil rights? What was crazy about caring about minorities? What was crazy about what we're advocating for? I thought you were on our side 4 years ago. Why are you acting like you weren't on our side? And it was just insanity. So I don't think they loved that, and they thought, oh, this is positioning. But having said that, if she jumps in the race, I think she instantly inherits the entire Sanders left, because there'll be no one else who is as big as her, who ever had anything to do with the Sanders left. So that's a lot of people. That's 30% of the Democrats right there.
And it's a mobilized group of people too.
Yeah, Trump in 2016, he only had 30% of the Republican Party. That's enough to win a primary. So she'll be there. And Jon Ossoff might be there, and I think he probably will be there. And I'm not sure who else is going to command those kinds of numbers. I don't think Kamala Harris is going to command those kinds of numbers. I don't think Gavin Newsom is going to command those kinds of numbers. Gavin Newsom is kind of everyone's sixth favorite candidate, I think. I don't think he's anyone's. But like Gavin Newsom, the only way he becomes the Democrat nominee is if it's a brokered situation, if there's some kind of civil war going on, and they're just evenly matched and they need someone else, because no one's voting for him first. But as I said, that's 2 years away. A lot can happen between now and then.
Yes, you are absolutely right to say that that's a political eternity away, and there is a lot of pundit brain going on, which obviously I'm somewhat inclined to as well. But if we do kind of rewind,
pundits.
That's true. I wanted to ask about the midterms, because I don't know about you, but I have trouble kind of navigating how we talk about the midterms, because on the one hand, we're talking about like infighting in the Democratic Party, which like we talk about every time. That's a normal, arguably healthy thing to happen in a democracy. Yeah. But we've got to sit that alongside the very not normal. We need your pep, not normal sting in this one. A very not normal Trump administration, right? And Trump's attacks on the institutions of democracy, Trump posting on Truth Social about, running in 2028, his consistent, quote unquote, joking about that, which is not joking. So I guess the question in there somewhere is how do you navigate both thinking and talking about those things all at once?
Okay, well, look, I'll I'll answer the question after the first thing I'll say, which is just on 2028 and Trump. He is going to keep on acting like he's going to run until the moment when it's too late. Basically, until he has to make a decision, he's going to keep on acting like he's going to run. And the reason why is he can't bear, this is basic Trump psychology. He can't bear not being the center of attention. So the last thing he's going to do is say, oh yeah, no, of course I'm not going to run. I'm going to be irrelevant for the next 2 years. He's not going to do that. That's not Trump's way. Okay, so right until halfway through 2027, maybe the end of 2027, he's going to keep on making allusions to running. So that doesn't mean he's actually running. That means he wants attention. So I'll just say that right now. I actually don't think he is going to run. And I think the reason he's not going to run is not because it's illegal and unconstitutional. I think the reason he's not going to run, who cares about that?
He doesn't care about that,
The reason I think he's not going to run is because he's going to have an approval of 30% pretty soon. And I don't think it's coming back. So it's just not a realistic proposition. Even if he could somehow get around the Constitution, it'll be a disaster. He's not going to run, I think. But having said that, he'll keep on pretending. Like the last thing he wants is Marco Rubio to own the next 2 years. He does not want that, right? So he'll just keep on going, oh, maybe, which is going to place Rubio in a tough position, by the way, because normally, if this was going to be a Rubio versus Vance primary, Rubio would resign sometime in the next 6 months, have a bit of a holiday, get himself tanned and rested, and then come out big at the end of 2027. That's what would normally happen. But he's not going to have an opportunity to do that, because if he does, he's going to be undermining Trump, because Trump won't have given up on, inverted commas, running. And he can't be disloyal, because if he's disloyal to Trump, he's got no chance. So this is going to screw Rubio around a little bit, this Trump. Oh, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Now let's get back to your original question about 2026.
Which is related, I guess, because Trump not running still kind of assumes there is democratic institutions that are relatively intact, and that approval rating matters.
Absolutely. And look, I think there is, and we should say, a lot of people, I get this all the time, people saying, why do you keep on acting like the 2026 elections are going to happen? Like Trump's going to make sure they don't happen. That's what they say. Like, look at the polls. He's miles behind. He's going to make sure he's going to interfere with the midterms. Well, I don't know how he does interfere with the midterms. These are state elections. He could want to, but I don't know how. I mean, even the only place where he has control to any extent is red states. In red states, Republicans are going to dominate. Why would he want to stop the elections there? Right? So he can't stop blue states holding elections. He can't even stop purple states holding elections. He can only stop Arkansas holding an election. If every politician in Arkansas wants to be a nuisance, then even then I'm not sure they can, because the courts will interfere. But the courts will stop them. But let's just say they would. Let's just say everyone is a complete patsy for Trump, which I don't think they are. But let's say they are. The elections still happen in the states that matter. So the elections are going to happen. But having said that maybe I'm being overly optimistic. That's what I think.
I think they'll happen.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how that will play out, I guess.
Well, the other thing you need to be aware of as well is people talk about, the interference. ICE are going to be there, and there'll be election monitors. And we just heard just yesterday that the DOJ is going to have 1,000 election monitors. Now, in your average city, there are over 1,000 different branches where people vote. If you want to stack an election, you need a lot more than 1,000 people. You need 100,000 people to stack an election, and he just doesn't have those kinds of facilities. So one of the bad things about America is that it's completely chaotic and anarchic, and there's no way of controlling anything. But that's also the good thing about America. It means it's very hard to stack. So I think they're going to happen, and I think he's going to get tanked. And so what I would say is, back to your original question, this is not about the Democrats. This is not about a civil war. People talk about the Democrats and the socialists and stuff. They talk about that because that's interesting. They talk about that because they want to sell newspapers that the whole thing hasn't already been decided. But I'm sorry, in reality, history says this election has already been decided and Trump is going to lose badly. When people are 2.5 months out from the election, when the president has an approval of, well, it's never been this low. It's never been this
Literally
low
never.
at this time.
Yeah.
Never. Literally never. And just as much as the gerrymandering has occurred, as much as there have been all kinds of ways of minimizing the effect of an election, it's not going to change the fact that this is going to be a shellacking. Now, the shellacking is only going to manifest itself in maybe a 20-seat swing because of all the gerrymandering and because of all the other reasons. If this was 40 years ago, the same kind of shellacking would result in the Democrats winning pretty much every single seat in the House. But be that as it may, the Democrats are going to win the House. The question is, are they also going to win the Senate, which a year ago seemed impossible? But now it's possible they're going to win 52 seats in the Senate. In fact, I would argue that Michigan, out of all the states, might be the hardest one for them to win. And that's not just because of Abdul El-Sayed. Mike Rogers is actually a strong candidate. The Republicans don't have a lot of strong candidates in these swing states, but Mike Rogers is a strong candidate. And also Michigan is redder than people think, I reckon. They think of Michigan as a blue state, but it's not. It's a very Trumpy state. So, I think they're going to win Michigan in the end, but that will be closer, I think, than Alaska, for instance, which people aren't paying much attention to. But at the end of the day, this is about Trump. This is about Trump and this is about Republicans. This like every midterm election, it's always about the incumbent. It's not about the opposition. The opposition could be the colloquial drover's dog. It doesn't matter. All that matters is, are you angry with the people in charge? If so, you want to send them a message. And right now, they're really, really angry. Really angry. I saw a stat yesterday. It's 71% of Americans, this is from the University of Michigan, the consumer sentiment guys, 71% of Americans are expecting prices to go up more than their income. Now, that has been happening recently, but that's very rare. It's probably not going to happen in the future because it normally doesn't happen. But that's how pessimistic people are. 71%, I think it was only 8% expected their income to go up more than prices. That is a record by like 20% of any time in the last 50 years, including during Jimmy Carter. So that is, I can't emphasize how pessimistic Americans are right now about the economy, about their future. And that will be reflected in the midterm. So in terms of how we interpret it, the short answer is interpret it as a referendum on the first 2 years. It's got nothing to do with Democrats. It's a referendum on the first 2 years, and that's it.
It's unusual for us, Chas, to be like optimistic about the future of American politics. So thank you for bringing that.
The results, I think, if you're not a Trump fan, I think you'll very much enjoy the results throughout the rest of this year. There's going to be, just one more thing. I know we're running out of time, but just one more thing quickly, just to put some bones on this, to make very clear what I'm talking about. Think back to 2014. Now, your listeners might not remember 2014, but I bet you do. 2014, the Republicans were as on the nose as ever. That was when Mitch McConnell was around. They were calling him Dr. No. They were blocking everything. And their popularity was in the low 20s. They were hated. And yet, that was one of the worst elections for the Democrats in recent history. Obama got pumped. And the reason why is because the Republicans were irrelevant. It didn't matter how much people hated the Republicans. All it was a backlash against the Obama administration. And now the shoe's on the other foot, except for that shoe is much, much tighter, and that foot is hurting so much more. And we'll see how big the blister is in a couple of months.
Yep. Unlike Marco Rubio's foot, which is swimming in those big boats that Trump bought him. Anyway, Chas, thank you so much for guiding us through and for your optimism. Hopefully we can get you back maybe after the midterms in another 400 years, so we can dissect the results and see how well placed your optimism was.
I look forward to it.
Thanks so much, Chas.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back with another episode next week. For those of you in Melbourne, Emma will be speaking with Australia Institute co-CEO Richard Dennis about his new Vantage Point essay, More Fool Me, How the Gas Industry Tricked Australia. That's happening at 6 p.m. on the day this is released, Tuesday the 25th of August, at Cinema Nova in Carlton. Visit australiainstitute.org.au/events to get your tickets. This episode was recorded on Thursday the 20th of August, and After America is supported by the Andrew Farron Foundation. I'm Angus Blackman. Thanks for listening.